I'm Fire Chief Gowdens Panholzer from the City of Monterey, and we are here today to thank and honor our federal partners in public safety for bringing lots of federal dollars to make the firefighters here in this community safer and to help us with the public safety on the Monterey Peninsula and in Monterey County. And at this point, I'd like to bring up Chief Urquidez to talk about one of the grants.
Thank you. I just want to remind Congressman Farr and the other folks that are here today that 7.5 years ago, we were at this park, and we were thanking Congressman Farr and the Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, for these $1.5 million that we had received to outfit every firefighter in Monterey County a portable. We purchased 700 portable radios with the assistance of the City of Monterey and the Salinas Rural Fire District back then, and 230 mobile radios. And our goal back in 2007 was interoperability. We wanted to have a portable radio and a mobile radio that everybody could use. We could go throughout the state for large incidents and be able to field program, which, as we know, the last few years we've had significant activity of fires, and those resources have been utilized in counties throughout the state when we're able to show up and field program those portable radios to talk to the incident commanders and the command and general staff. I think the most important thing to remember 7.5 years ago when we were here is the economy was starting just to peak. But shortly thereafter, when the economy continued to decline, those same 700 portable radios were being served by a number of different fire service organizations. For example, the City of Pacific Grove, the City of Carmel, Monterey Regional Airport, Carmel Valley. Those areas have now, either through mergers, consolidations, or contracting, have now been served by Monterey County Regional and the City of Monterey. That saved the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars that those entities were not required to go out and buy new infrastructure to make those mergers and consolidations happen. So again, Congressman Farr, we thank you for the 7.5 years ago. We've made good use of it. Since then, we received another $700,000 to put firmware in those radios with the upgrades of radio infrastructure. We purchased 300 pagers for the volunteer departments in Monterey County. So again, our radio infrastructure, we did exactly what we said we were going to do, interoperability, and it had a bonus with all these contractual and consolidations to make that a seamless with no additional cost to the taxpayers, and we want to thank you for those efforts.
I'm Brian Dempsey from Seaside Fire Department. I'd like to talk a bit about self-contained breathing apparatus. $1.7 million in federal funds. We have a couple examples over to my left on the type of breathing apparatus that was purchased, but basically self-contained breathing apparatus are an essential piece of equipment for firefighters in order to carry out their duties at structure fires, hazardous materials calls, confined space calls, vehicle fires, or any environment that is immediately dangerous to life or health. Some of the safety features on this latest generation of air pack include additional air supply for firefighters to exit the building, a heads-up display within the mask to monitor air supply, an enhanced assembly to share air if a firefighter is in trouble. The 5 participating agencies were able to update their current inventories by obtaining 292 air packs and 17 rapid intervention crew assemblies. Most importantly, all agencies selected the same manufacturer, which is critical to interoperability efforts.
Several years ago, the federal government provided, through the Assistance to Firefighters grant money, money to purchase mobile data computers for the Monterey County fire agencies. These computers, we basically were able to put a computer in all of our frontline emergency response equipment so that we can stay in communications with our communications center in Salinas, as well as with each other, and receive vital updates and information related to the emergency calls that were going on, be able to see what the status was of other resources. And that kind of information, and the fact that we're all on the same platform, once again, allows us to work together seamlessly and through interoperability. Another thing that I like to point out is behind me, somewhere in the bay, you can see a boat. That's a City of Monterey's fire boat that was purchased 10 years ago through with federal grant dollars as well. And just this last year, We did a major overhaul and upgrade of the boat, and once again, federal grant dollars participated in providing new motors on that boat and probably extending the life of that boat for another 15 years. So once again, thank you, Congressman Farr, for all your efforts and support in providing these federal dollars to help make our community safer.
You know, we've seen a lot of great equipment. We've heard about our radio systems, our interoperability, some fine equipment that's available for any agency in the county. But number one and most important is we couldn't do it without well-trained men and women, firefighters, many of which we have behind us today. One of the important programs that Congressman Farr has been a steadfast supporter of is the SAFER. SAFER stands for Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response. It's a FEMA-based grant that fire agencies can write for every year. And I can tell you at one time, 20% of the firefighters in the city of Salinas alone were on a SAFER grant program. And our community would not have been as safe as it was without those hard-fought dollars at the federal level. Over $10 million in the past have gone to just about every agency represented here in terms of SAFER dollar funding, and it is critical. We have applications currently for the 2015 SAFER year. We're actually asking for additional monies just in Salinas alone of close to $4 million. In reference to other agencies also, we're probably looking upwards to another $7 million. That funding is critical to making sure that our communities are fire safe and safe from any threat that could be compelled upon us. Congressman Farr, you have been steadfast and unparalleled in your unwavering support of the fire service. I know you have a small background in it, and it shows in your support that you give us every day. But from our community and all the representatives here, from the Monterey County Fire Chiefs Association, I just want to thank you again for that support. Thank you very much. You bet. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Chief, thank you very much. It's really a pleasure, and to see these incredible first responders behind me just gives me goose pimples. I had the privilege of being in my first year of college, of being a wildland firefighter. That means I had a summer job with the Forest Service as a firefighter housed at Arroyo Seco, and really taught me a lot about first response and made me realize that what fighting a fire is all about is sort of everything we try to do in society. It takes two things. It takes equipment, takes people know how to use that equipment, very specific training when you're driving these big trucks, and then a plan of how to suppress fires. And in wildland fires, it's burning on all angles, and it takes a lot of ingenuity. And you know, I think that helped in my development of understanding how things work and how we can do a better job of it. So I really I have a bias when it comes to being on the Appropriations Committee, and we have this under our FEMA budget, we have the ability to set aside some money for grants to local governments for not only equipment purchasing, but also for training. And what I think is so remarkable here is that if you think about it, and really this is the perfect place to have it, because California began right here. Think about it. California began here, and that meant that the responders to needs in the early days, and fire was one of them in Monterey, and it was all volunteerism, but that equipment probably originated first here in Monterey. What's grown out of that is a realization that in this word of interoperability, you really have to be able to talk to each other. And we didn't have radios that did that. Law enforcement and firefighters couldn't talk to each other, and firefighters among firefighters. So that's why we sought the equipment. At the same time, there was a need to do not only interoperability and communication, but as our budgets got tighter and tighter, to move away from just a silo of an elected board that just has, we run fire, that's all we do, and we're a public district, but we don't have enough money to grow and to buy the new equipment and to train the people. We need to think about merger. So that is not only a consolidation of fire districts, it's more interoperability, because now you have the excesses of one department can be shared by another department. The talent of one department can be shared with the talent of the other, and the specialty needs. We had a fire here in Pebble Beach when I was in the state legislature in the upper part of Beach, and it was very difficult to put out because the inversion layer brought in all the fog. And they didn't really have equipment for doing shrubbery fire, which this most was. That equipment was sitting at Fort Ord because they had fires every time they did maneuvers over there, and they had that specialized equipment, and nobody called them to respond to the Pebble Beach fire because they didn't know, there was no dialogue between the federal government and local fire departments. It just seemed dumb. So I have been really keen on trying to support this community, which I think is leading the nation in how we respond to things. Not only these mergers and interoperable memorandums of understanding, but the fact that we've got volunteer fire department in Big Sur, which is strictly wildland, and they really truly are. I mean, they are. These are the first responders. When we think about first responders, that word is easy to say, but what is it? If there is any big incident here, even other than a fire, these are the first people that are going to be there. And that's true. It's not the military. It's not the Coast Guard. It's not the Air Force. It's the people that live in the community who have specialized training. So if we indeed are going to have a secure nation and one that knows that in a disaster we have capable people that are living in our community that can respond, that's right here. And they're doing some smart things. Where was the first school in the entire nation, maybe in the world, to bring people together to get a master's degree in Homeland Security, where any of these gentlemen could apply to get that master's degree? Here at the Naval Postgraduate School. So essentially the first responder idea, it started here, and it's maturing in an incredible way. And what I saw with the 9/11 disaster in New York and in Washington, D.C., that the people that were called to manage that were not in the federal government. They were from California, because California had started long ago in the fire service a thing called incident command, which is a way the first person arrives, takes over, and you don't just kick them out when the next authority arrives with a big higher rank. And you need that kind of ability to be able to command an incident, a response to an incident. And that was a California fire concept. It's now used nationwide, and it was exercised big after 9/11. So to be on the Appropriations Committee, and yes, it counts to be a senior member of Congress and to be on a great committee like that, and when it comes to putting money into special pots, we put it. But what's most important is for them to get together and ask. And what I think is key about this, and really notable, this is a consortium. We've got the Monterey Peninsula, the Salinas, Big Sur, all together. So when they write for those grants, if I were a grant giver, I'd much rather give to a grant where I got a lot of people that are going to be very satisfied with. And these devices are expensive, and they need technical training to use them, and they're life-saving. So here we are. It's a great day to celebrate, a great day to recognize the history of firefighting on the Monterey Bay Area, and most of all to thank those who are in uniform who serve us every day, our first responders. Thank you very, very much. And Mr. Mayor, so glad you came over, because this is a team effort. We're all on the same team. We just have different job titles, but our job is to respond to the needs of our community. And nobody does it better than the mayor of Salinas. Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
Well, as the mayor of the largest city, and I'm also on the Mayor's Association for Monterey County, I want to thank Sam, because I've been to many meetings throughout the state, and I always get asked this question: why does Monterey County get these grants? And I said, because we have a great congressman that fights for every dollar that comes to this county from Washington. And I'm sure he sometimes thinks they only come to see me when they want something, and that may be true. But we know that he has represented this county very well. He's going to continue to represent this county, and he has pushed to make us better at what we do. In the toughest of economic times, we reached out to Sam in Washington, and all these firefighters and all this equipment, we got the assistance we needed. And as the mayor of Salinas, I want to thank him personally, and I know the other mayors that I have spoken to in this last week said, we're lucky, we're proud and we're glad to live in Monterey County, and we're glad that Sam Farr is our congressman. Thank you, Sam.